Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. I I'm just trying to stop. Am I sharing my screen, Gabby? You see?
You certainly are.
Oh, I can hear myself back. I Zoom has changed and I can't seem to find the actual thing that says stop sharing screen. So that's exciting. We will come back in a second to that. Um, how are you, Gabby?
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much on this lovely rainy day up
I
north.
know. It's so miserable out there. This isn't what we order at Sunshine, is it?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It's really horrible. I feel quite miserable today as well.
Oh,
I'm all right, but the weather really does make a difference. When you've got the dopamine coming in from the sun, everything feels better. But then, yeah, not feeling this. So let me stop. There we go. Has that stopped the share now?
you're just how you were to me before.
Oh,
Absolutely
hopefully.
beautiful, obviously, but yeah.
Oh, it looks like I shared and then stopped to share. I don't know what's going on. It's not like I've done many of these. Who am I?
Just wing it, just wing it. It's the best way.
I just think I need a full production team here now. I think we're doing these Facebook Lives so often and we're doing these webinars that what we need is like they have in the radio stations where they have people doing all the production work for you. Just hint, hint to head office. Sort me out. I can say that because I'm not working from home today. It's like I'm an outsider. So anyway, I've completely got off on a tangent, like shock horror, ADHD brain. For those watching, we're not normally this chaotic. I'm very sorry. I'm leading Gabby astray here. I'm Chrissa. I'm the founder of Sunshine Sport. And this is my wonderful colleague, Gabby. How are you anyway, Gabby? Let's go into a proper conversation now.
Okay, let's be serious. Okay, yeah, absolutely fine. Very well, thank you. I do apologise if you can hear snoring. It's not me, it's the cat. So she's
Ah.
coming over really loud, and I've only just realised. So, but yes, everybody's very zen in our house this morning. It's quite calm.
I've had to keep this room is where my kitten is now claimed. I mean, she's not a year old yet, but she's still quite dinky, and so I've had to kick her out of this room. It's fine. She's not coming to any harm. She has a whole house to sort of parade around, but I've had to say no because she just likes being up high, so she'll climb on my head every time.
So that's a good look.
Yeah, I'm very distracted. As you can see, I can get distracted very quickly. And our Kelly Jarvis here has always got a cat bum going across the middle of her screen. And I
Mhm.
must be honest, she is so patient. She's just like, okay. She's so patient. Where I would be like, oh my God, that's derailed my brain.
She tickles me because I don't think there is a front part of that cat. I've only seen the back end of the cat.
Always the bum. Always the bum. So anyway, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. We're streaming live today over Facebook and YouTube, which is nice and exciting. If you're watching, do say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. And, because we're British, by all means, tell us about the weather in your area, because that is our favourite thing to talk about, isn't it? I was going to say in Britland then. I don't know where the honest to God, I don't think my brain is braining today. So we're up for a bit of a wild ride on this one, I think. Um, but for those of you who don't know, if you've not watched us before, I'm Krista, the founder of Sunshine Support, like I've just said. I'm joined by Gabby now. Some of you will know Gabby from things like our Ask the Expert events or our webinars, or you might have been lucky enough to come and meet her in person because she is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Gabby actually manages our education consultancy team here at Sunshine, and she's a very, very experienced Senko. But you've been here now. Is it coming up to like 2 years?
It is my second year this month.
Oh
Oh no,
my,
no, it was August. It was August.
end of the school year.
Yeah, yeah,
2 years. God, it's flown, hasn't it?
hasn't it just? Well, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, and when you're creating all this justice for kids, I mean, it's a busy time.
Absolutely.
Um, So, Gabby, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, both as a Senko and as a parent?
Oh wow, that's always difficult, isn't it? Because you just crack on and do things. But yeah, so historically, this probably isn't actually very interesting, but historically, I was an early years teacher in Birmingham, and then moved up north and accidentally ended up working in a language provision on supply. And then ended up staying there for 15 years, becoming the Senko, and had a particular case where there was a child struggling to attend. We knew we could do things differently, so I discovered Sunshine, and then had a child who had attendance difficulties myself, and then came to Sunshine for my own support. So yeah, bit of a kind of checkered
Yeah.
use of Sunshine support, really. So personal sort of use, and come in as a professional as well.
So that's nice. So before you even started doing what you do here, you already had a good sort of experience. I was like, I hope it was a good experience, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Nice. So, I mean, today's topic is really close to both of our hearts because both as I guess, I mean, I didn't come into this as a send professional. Always been really interested in send. Always been interested in psychology. Psychology is my bag, as you know. I really love psychology. But I came to my journey here at Sunshine. The reason I set up Sunshine was because of my own child's difficulties. And she's autistic with ADHD, PDA profile, lots of trauma thrown in there, sensory processing, all the usual things. And because, of course, she's PDA, she's incredibly bright, which we see in our PDAs because, well, I won't go into a whole thing about PDA, but it's very, very common. Um, no learning difficulties. And she would baffle me every day. And I could never, and nobody could understand what we were going through as a family. And it was really tricky because, of course, she didn't look like she needed support and she would mask really well. And this is all really valid to today's discussion because we're going to be talking about all the small things people can do to help send families. And my journey here is, like I said, initially as a parent. Now I'm on sort of two sides of this, I guess, because we run this very professional service. So I'm seeing things from a professional point of view. But when I say professional point of view, I mean that actually I'm in there with the families. I'm listening to them. I'm resonating so much with the stuff that they're saying to me, and I hope they resonate with what I say as well. But likewise, you've got your own send parent journey as well. So I think between the two of us, whilst we've come into this slightly from different angles, we've got a really good handle actually on what parents might need, what send families really benefit from. And like I said, with my family, what I tended to find was because, when we're out and about, my daughter doesn't look like she needs support. In fact, she's incredibly bright. She's very good in social situations because she suffers so much from anxiety, but she's also incredibly intelligent. And the mix between the autism, ADHD, and then, of course, you've got the PDA profile means that she can absolutely boss a social situation to get what she needs out of it to lower her anxiety. So if it means that to get into a social situation, she finds herself in a social situation, chances are she wants out. She does not want to be in that social situation. So she will do quite complex things, very articulate, in articulate ways to get out of that social situation. So actually, nobody would have suspected, and of course, autistic girls like to fly under the radar. As somebody with ADHD myself, I have flown under the radar for 40 years without a diagnosis. We don't want to be spotted as neurodivergent women and girls. So what you tend to find then is that nobody will offer support because they don't actually realize that you're struggling. And then when you do say you're struggling, you tend to find you're met with, what? Can you not just be firmer? Can you not just say no? Can you not just take a phone off her? Can you not just, can you not just? And it's like, yeah, I did that. And it didn't end very well for me. So sometimes we find that people can gaslight without realizing, it's seldom meant that way. Um, but anyway, I think that it highlights, and I know my experience might be similar to yours, it highlights that people don't visibly see a problem, therefore they don't offer any sort of help. And then when you do ask for help, you feel weak, you feel pathetic, you hate asking because you're scared about what is going to come back. You don't know if you're going to be gaslit. You don't know you don't know. You don't know. Um, and I think that one of the things that we can probably agree on is that life in a send family can be relentless. It's non-stop. Now, Gabby, you work with so many families. Can you paint us a bit of a picture? What are the realities that send families are facing?
Oh goodness, yeah. I mean, you've painted such a good picture there, and there was a lot there that resonated with me from a personal perspective. In that, often with our daughter, she's so bright and she's so bubbly generally, and then when things aren't going well, because that's not how she typically presents, um, then people don't necessarily always believe what we're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing sort of typically across our families at the moment, is that I think so many children are great at masking and hiding their difficulties and developing really good coping strategies. And then it's very difficult as a professional to be able to say, well, yes, we could do a referral, or we could do this, or we could do that, because sometimes they're genuinely not seeing what we're seeing. And that's really hard, isn't it? It's a bit of a juxtaposed position.
It's so hard. And I think, like you say, there's judgment and disbelief.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and it must be tricky from a professional's point of view because if you're not seeing, if you've got a girl, okay, and it's quite common, it's common in boys as well, but I'm going to go with girl because I've got four girls, so I can only be a girl mum. I'm not a boy mum. But with my girls, I've got two that mask actually, and two that really don't. And I laugh because they really don't. And you've met Ridley. Ridley is my DLD. She does not mask. Ridley makes it easy to get provision in place because she doesn't mask. She owns her difficulties. But again, early diagnosis really helps with that. I've spoken about this at length. But if you've got a girl, and I'm going to pick on one of mine, I won't say names, but that masks. And so in school, she's performing very well. She's predicted, level nines across the board for GCSE. Um, she seemingly looks like she has friends, but she has no idea what's going on in that friendship circle. But she nods a lot and laughs at the right cues, but also is incredibly vulnerable, is very, very easy to be picked on. I remember her coming back once and she was soaking wet. Um, and I said, she came back from school absolutely soaked through. I said, what's happened? And she went, oh, the girls in school, it was so funny, right? And I was thinking, this already doesn't sound right for her. And I said, what do you mean it was so funny? And she said, well, they filled my pockets with water in my blazer and they were laughing their heads off. It was so funny. I'm like, you're being bullied, but you have no idea. And then she came home once and she said, oh, I've got a bit of a problem. My books are all stuck together in the bottom of my bag. I said, what do you mean? Is it from the water the other day? And she said, no, the girls right in school is so funny. They chewed their chewing gum, put it in my bag, and then put my books in. And she had
Oh,
no idea that she was being bullied. And these are the levels of vulnerability that a lot of our children are experiencing. And so it's really tricky then as a parent to go back because you're fuming. You're absolutely fuming. Your child is being picked on, there's safeguarding issues, blah, 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 blah. But the teachers are seeing a girl who's laughing with her friends, performing very well in school, doesn't have any issues, no necessarily behavioral issues or anything like that. It can be really difficult as a teacher, though, I can imagine, to kind of go, well, I don't know what I'm meant to be looking for because the parents are saying this, but what we're seeing is this. Now, this is quite a common thing, and I've done loads of reels on, the best thing a teacher can do is just sit and listen and validate, even if they can't see what the parents are seeing. but that must sit quite uneasy if they genuinely can't see it. What sort of things can a teacher do? What little things can a teacher do in these scenarios where parents have to go in and talk to them, whether the child's masking or not?
Mm.
What can be useful?
Wow, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so, it's such an interesting question because, as you say, when you're in a class, and I was really lucky because I was in a language provision. So my class was 10 children. So the poor things didn't get a minute without my eyes on them. And there were three of us in there as well, staff. There was a therapist and there was a TA. But in a mainstream class of 30, and if you're in early years, potentially 90, which is what we had, your eyes are not everywhere. You can't see everything. You're pulled in so many directions. So what I would always say is, if a parent had come to me and said, this is what I'm seeing, this is what we're being told, and I hadn't seen that as a teacher, I think the best thing you can do is make some time to go and observe and
Mhm.
actually do observations in a variety of contexts. But also, it's always good to ask somebody else, maybe a colleague that you don't necessarily, teachers, you make friends with various people, don't you? Don't always ask the person that you would naturally go to. Ask someone who maybe has a different viewpoint to you, somebody in a different position, get that triangulation. And I think that's really key. It's go, right, I'm going to go and observe this child, but I want you to do that as well, because I want you to see them and give me a different viewpoint. And I think at least if you can offer that and say, actually, when I did observe them at playtime, I started to see some of the things that you were describing, because you're actually looking for it.
Yeah, because I think you do need to really look for it in a lot of
Yeah.
children. But I
Yeah.
think that would offer so much validation as well to a parent
Mm.
that you're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Because I think, one of the difficulties I've had is that sort of not being believed and therefore won't carry it through. Well, that's not how she is here. Listen, I think she might be lying to you. She does have friends. Everything is okay. And it's really invalidating to sort of,
Mm.
I mean, I've got a course actually, I think it's on the Sunshine, it is on the Sunshine Academy, that's all about how professionals can better support send parents. And one of the things that I always say is it takes great courage for a parent to go into a school. It's never on the first thing that goes wrong. A parent, it's very, very rare that a child will start a setting and the first little niggle will cause the parent to go to the head teacher. That's just not going to happen. It's usually when they're kind of running out of options and they feel quite frustrated that something isn't being done. It might be that they just have a little word with, a teacher. I remember in reception, I'll talk about Ridley because she will talk openly about her experience in education. But in reception, she would really struggle getting over the threshold into school. And once she was in, she was absolutely fine to a point. They could see that she was struggling with something, but they were really good at tending to those needs. So whilst she wasn't completely fine, they were recognizing she wasn't completely fine. So we were working on it together, and it was honestly, this was like, oh, if you could write something to be perfect for a child and a parent, this would be it, right? And I've talked about this at length, and I feel incredibly honoured that the head teacher of that school now works at Sunshine Sport as well. I just collect all the best teachers. That's what we do here. Um, but I remember Ridley would really struggle getting over the threshold into the classroom. Then when she was in, fine, to a point, she had difficulties, like I said, but she was okay. But it was that threshold. So we worked with the school, and I said to the teacher, when she's in, I think she's okay. And she said, she is. We've got her when she's in. But it's that threshold. And she validated me. And then she told me a little bit about her life. And she has a child who struggles with the same. My shoulders dropped. I was like, you are relating to me. And I think this is like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a send parent come to you and say, I'm having difficulties, to show something that that you relate, oh, it's the world. It means everything. If you go, oh, I think I've been through something similar. I completely understand. Talk to me. Let me see if I've got anything that I can help you with. That sort of safety, you know? And I remember saying to me, my child has these sorts of difficulties, and I get it. And whilst the difficulties were not the same, she was
Mhm.
telling me that she relates to how difficult that is as a parent. And I remember that we came up with lots of ways to get her over the threshold. The big thing for her was that she could take a little toy in, a toy that perhaps we were doing some work on at home because knew that she had language. We thought it was like a delay. So we'd been doing some work at home with her on, it could be like farmyard animals or dinosaurs or whatever. Um, so anyway, so she would take these things in, and she would be excited to give a story to her teacher about this thing, and it would make her forget that she was going over the threshold. Then when she started having more positive experiences in school and realized that she was really safe and everything was okay, we noticed the threshold thing became less of a problem. How lovely that you're both working together on that. And it has to be a collaboration to see magic for children, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think as well, your parents are often coming to you, I think, as you described, in crisis,
Yeah.
or heading that in that direction because they've probably exhausted all of their resources, so then they're coming to you, and it is not easy to ask for help, is it?
No,
And I just,
no.
yeah, like, you've got to be a teamwork makes the dream work. It's so cliche, but it's so true, isn't it? And, as a teacher, I would often talk to parents about, within reason and professionally, about personal experience, because they've got to know that you get it not just from a textbook point of view. It's lived experience, isn't it? And, one of my colleagues also had a child who was going through the whole assessment process, and she was able to share that with parents, and that really helped. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it is. I think it's about that team work, about that collaboration. Yeah.
And open-mindedness. I
Yeah.
think whoever you
Curiosity.
are, if you're talking to anyone, really, we always say, what do we always say? It's just got out of my head.
Lots of
Um,
things.
Curiosity, not
Yeah.
judgment. Be
Yeah.
more curious and less judgmental. Because one of the things I think, I certainly experienced with my PDA was when I was talking to these, social workers, teachers, whatever, and they would say, well, I've worked with one girl with autism, so I know, and this doesn't feel like that. And you're like, okay, no, 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 no. There's judgment in there. We need to be curious. You can say, I've worked with one girl who's autistic, so I have that one experience in my pocket that I can refer to if needed. But if you've met one child with a presentation, then you've met one child with a presentation. We've done a lot of work in the past with Rachel Tenacious. She is tenacious. I mean, that is not her surname, but she's brilliantly tenacious. And one of the things that she always posts online is, if you've met one person with autism, she's autistic, by the way. If you've met one person with autism, you should meet some more because we're all really cool. And I love that. But it is that being curious, just because you've met one Welsh person, it doesn't mean you know Welsh people. Even if you are a Welsh person, you don't necessarily know Welsh people. I can say that because I'm Welsh, by the way. Um, but I think that that sort of open-mindedness is really, really key, and kind of going, okay, this is really interesting. Because actually, curiosity can be validating as well. Because if you're inquisitive and you're genuinely curious, like, wow, this is really interesting. A child presents differently at home to how they do at school. Or, and it doesn't have to be that way, by the way. It can be the other way, where the child is really, really well behaved at home and not so much in school. And I've got both in my girls. So my maskers are beautifully behaved in school. My children who don't mask, i.e. Ridley, I would say she's probably better behaved at home because we have a very low arousal home without realizing really because of having a PDA, in the home previously. So um, It's quite interesting. But I think one of the other things as well is, regardless of whether you're a professional or a family member or a friend or whatever, if a send parent is coming to you and they're saying, I'm having a really tough time, in addition to not being judgmental, one of the things I think is really useful is understanding that this person who's speaking to you, this send parent, is likely to have a hellish time ahead of them navigating services.
Yeah.
And you've just got to be really patient and gentle with them because it's going, some are okay. Some
Mm.
journeys are actually very straightforward. And we have members in our team um, who have come to us, they're send parents. They've got skill sets in areas that we need, but they're send parents. And one of the girls in the office, I won't go naming names, but one of the girls in the office came to us and she was like, yeah, my child's got an EHCP. This is when she started working for us about 2.5, 3 years ago. My child's got an EHCP, everything's fine. And I think you're actually her advocate. So now you've worked on a plan. She's gone, oh my God, it was really bad. But she has a physical disability, and it doesn't seem to be as difficult to get the provision in place because you can see it than if you've got a child perhaps who is an autistic child who you can't visibly see that they have difficulties. And there is a big difference between the two, but still the services are not forthcoming. It's still really tricky. It's not, I mean, we've been in the process, I know, because we're doing it almost collectively. Like this child is like one of our favorite kids ever. So we're all doing it collectively, giving advice to a mum at work, but also you're doing the advocacy. And it's not that quick a fix in moving her school placement. We know she needs a new school. Everybody agrees. Even the council agrees. But moving the school provision is not as easy as going. They need it, therefore they go in, even though everybody is on the same page, because you've got to look at the child, you've got to look at their transition. I mean, her transition is going to have to be a very long, slow process because she's going to really struggle with that change. So, understanding that even in the most straightforward
Mm.
situations, that's going to be hard, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And there are so many things that can happen along the way, aren't there? And I
Yeah,
think, all right, I think what you said at the beginning of this, you said, if you know somebody that's a send parent, you're almost, as somebody who's been through that journey with lots of send parents, you're almost settling them in and buckling them up for the ride, aren't you? You're sort of going, yep, okay, this has gone well so far. This is
absolutely.
what could happen, and let's have a cup of tea and let's think about, what could be next, you know
Let's keep having tea. Like,
Oh,
just
yeah, tea and coffee
keep
and
talking.
powder in it.
I mean, I've just had a comment through from one of the team actually saying there's a lot of people talking about masking because we've been talking about masking. Um, we've actually got a webinar tonight with our fantastic Kelly Jarvis, and I just want to throw this in there because Kelly's going to be doing a 2-hour webinar on masking and fawning tonight. So I think if you really want to talk, if you want more information about masking and fawning, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whoever you are, go to this webinar because Kelly is also a very experienced educator, another amazing head teacher that I have collected on my SEND journey. So Kelly was actually the head teacher for my PDA, and she is incredibly skilled, experienced, well versed in educating children who mask and fawn, and she understands um how they present. She can pick out a masker. She's actually very good because even with the staff, she will understand if somebody's masking. And she makes them feel really, really safe. And as somebody myself who, of course, as neurodivergent women, we mask to get through life. Otherwise, we don't achieve. Like, sadly, that's how it is. If I spoke my mind every time something came into it, I'd never have a job. But I don't know, I'd be totally cancelled. But Kelly is really good at kind of going, okay, now we're out of that formal situation. Are you all right? And she's done it with me because she's been an advocate for me. And she said, you were ticking in that meeting. She said it to me recently. She said, you looked not like yourself. Nobody else would have noticed. I noticed. Are you okay? Do you want to unpick it with me? Do you not want to? But she's so safe, isn't she? but she's fabulous and she's going to be delivering this webinar tonight anyway. Book on. They've put the comments in the Facebook and the YouTube links. But if you want the in the comments, sorry, if you want the link, please comment and say masking and fawning webinar, and we'll give you the link because we're not going to cover that. That's not what this is about today. I'm just giving some examples. But if you want a better understanding of masking and fawning, by all means, please do comment, and we will give you the link for tonight's webinar. And it's recorded, by the way. So if you book a ticket and you can't make it, it's recorded. And in 6 to 8 weeks' time, it'll be on the Academy. So I've just got that bit out of the way. I just wanted to make sure that people understood. Um, but I know that we're speaking a lot now, Gabby, about like getting that provision in place and EHCPs. And we've touched upon this slightly, but it's not just about navigating those difficult things, like getting the DLA, getting the EHCP or the IDP if you're in Wales or wherever you are, there will be a formal process. But, just saying there, about having a cup of tea, it's the emotional toll that it takes on you, the sort of isolation, the constant advocacy. Um, and I mean, and we seem to, I mean, we've got an advocacy service here at Sunshine, and we have a lot of new clients every week. I wouldn't like to say, like sometimes upwards of 30 or 40 clients a week that come into our service for advocacy. And they're at the end of their tether because they've tried all the free services. They realize that actually free services tend to be their only remit is to sit on the fence between the two parties, and we know that, and it's very frustrating for those who work in those services. A lot of them come and work for us actually because they want to do something a bit more proactive. Um, but it is constant, and we pick people up when they really are at the end of their tether for advocacy. But you're supporting these parents on the front line, Gabby. How, when we're talking about the emotional toll, the isolation, the constant advocacy, talk to me about that. Like what's happening on the ground?
Yeah, I often see the first meeting that we often have with parents is an interesting one because often I say to them, I've read your advocacy form. I have obviously taken on board all of the things that you've written in there. But there's probably a bit more of a backstory that you want to tell. And often that first meeting, I watch families come in and they look really tense and really nervous. And then they start talking, and you can tell that they just feel they need a safe space to be able to go, this is my story. Somebody is finally listening. And sometimes it took me a little while to get used to this when I came to advocacy, that actually sometimes I don't need to give any advice in that first meeting. It's just that, I get it. I get what you're going through. This is, your story is unique. We see repeated patterns, and often it's giving them that space to really offload all of that, and then to say, do you know what, we can work through this, we can put a plan together. And I think some of them go away from that first meeting with a plan and go, I feel like I can tackle this now. Whereas some people go, Gabby, can you do everything? And that's absolutely fine as well. But I think it's that initial hand holding, isn't it? It's that you always talk, Chrissa, to us about holding space. And I
Yeah,
think that's that crucial bit at the beginning, isn't it, for those families where they're just trying to piece together what they've been through.
it's safety. I
Yeah.
focus a lot of everything that I do day to day, whether it's at work with my colleagues or at home with my family. And I try really, really hard, and it comes easier to me now. I've been doing it sort of quite proactively over time, but of making people feel safe and understanding that safety looks different to everybody. It's massive, right? No, there's no formula to get this right. But I think being able to let people know that they're okay for feeling the way that they do, those simple words to say, if I'd been through that as well, I'd feel exactly the same. Like you're okay to feel like that. It's normal to feel like this. It's normal to feel tired, to feel frustrated, to be anxious, to feel triggered, because we talk about parents. So, for instance, school avoidance. Let's go on to that topic briefly, because we do see there are patterns in intergenerational experiences, and we've done podcasts on this. And if you want to link to our podcast, I mean, it's on Spotify and everything, but let us know. Just put podcast and we'll give you the link. But we did this really interesting podcast where Emma, who handles all of our inquiries and is the glue for our consultancy and advocacy division. She's fab, isn't she? Emma said that her daughter has school attendance difficulties, and what makes it easier for her daughter, I don't know whether that's the right term, but more validating, I guess, is that Emma also had school attendance difficulties. Now, her daughter's school attendance difficulties trigger Emma's old feelings and trauma, but she's working on that to help her daughter. So she's working on her. She's caught the hot potato, as I like to say, this intergenerational trauma. She's caught it and she's working on it to help her daughter. And she's had a really good experience with school where she's been quite open and honest. And Emma is just a delight. She's so easy to get on with. I don't know anybody who would ever hate Emma or dislike her. But she has used her experience to benefit her daughter. And then she was sat down with her mum and she was saying, oh yeah, she's having such difficulty getting into school, just like I did. And then her mum said, and I did. And all of a sudden, you realize there were three generations. And she said her mum actually called the doctor out, or mum's mum called the doctor out, and he prodded her tummy. He's like, you're fine, you need to go into school. Because, of course, things were very different back then. But we need to recognize that there's intergenerational stuff and stop. Like when people go, oh, well, her mother was just like that and her mother was just like that. Rather than do that, can I go, what's happening in your family to make this continue to be passed down? How can we break the cycle? And Kelly always talks about cycle breaking. But I think we don't need to fix it though. I think that's one of the things that people need to understand. If a send parent comes to you with a problem, again, another thing that Kelly Jarvis always says is, do you want me to hold space for you here or do you want me to help you fix it? And I think that's quite a nice thing because I can hold space and we can have a cup of tea and I will nod and I will hug you and you can cry and you can just get it off your chest, which is what we tend to do in our cuppa and chats. So very useful. If you want a link to our cuppa and chat, we do them online and we do them in person in both Derby and South Wales. But yeah, it's about holding space. Sometimes people do want you to fix it, but that's exactly what you're saying there with the first advocacy appointment. Sometimes they need that validation from you that, oh my goodness, this is appalling. You are right to feel the way that you do. And here is a plan of action. Do you want me to do it or do you want to do it? Actually, that's all I needed. Thank you, Gabby. I love you. Goodbye. Um, or they might say, which is me, by the way, I'm so triggered because I've been a Sen parent for nearly 23 years. I know I don't look old enough, okay? I just use a lot of collagen. Or cow pow. I got it in there. Cow pow, as we like to call it, cow powder. Um, both of
Talk about
No, but yeah, I've been a Sen parent for a long, long time, and I do get triggered by words, by people's personalities, by a lot of things. So I am one of those parents that says, "Do it all for me, can't do it." Even before I had Sunshine Support, I can't do it. I can't. I physically fall apart. I know what I'm doing. I can do it for anybody else's child, but the minute it comes to one of my kids, the emotional overwhelm kicks in and I want to validate parents out there who experience this because it's massive, isn't it?
Yes, yes, 100%. I cannot advocate for my daughter. I cannot advocate for Kitty at all. Um, I, and I've worked with Kitty School for a long time professionally as well, and the head teacher is incredible. But if ever I need to go in, I can't do it. It's so difficult advocating for your own child. You're so emotionally invested and emotionally charged about it. Definitely, that's really interesting. Yeah.
It's weird. And let us know in the comments if this is something you experience, that you know what you should be doing, you know what you should be saying, you know what your rights are or whatever, but you just can't seem to carry it out. And that, I mean, we understand because we've done lots of research and learning on this, but it is the vagus nerve, I think, that that completely disables us because it goes into, oh my God, you're going to die. And it's a way of us protecting ourselves, but it's not particularly useful. Therapy really helps. We've had um, a comment on our YouTube channel that says, there seems to be a huge gap from a parent and professional perspective, and this can then be misunderstood as a mental health need. Oh, yes, which also mental health professionals don't understand. Yeah, so I suppose then, Gabby, right? So let's use this one to sort of steer where we go next a little bit. If you have a parent, okay, I'm going to call myself out here. Okay, I'm a SEN parent. I had, like I said, a child with, or I have a child with very neurodivergent, lots of neurodivergent profiles. Okay, autism, ADHD, PDA, trauma, um, and I am neurodivergent myself. I've got ADHD. I then go to the school and I become very persistent. And in the early days, I knew my rights, or I thought I did. I didn't know them like I know them now. And so I was like, I know what constitutes an education. I know what you should be doing. Rah, 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 rah. Sharp shoulder, sharp elbows. Made a bit of a tool, but I looked like a tool. I looked a bit crazy. All of a sudden, I get an accusation of, this parent is too persistent, overly anxious. Does she have mental health problems? What else is going on there? Is she fabricating or inducing illness? FII. Let's get social care involved. Boom, boom, boom. Very slippery slope. Child on child protection. That's what happened to me. So again, I think this is what Sarah's saying here on YouTube is very much about, you've got a parent who is very persistent, but then a professional doesn't recognize that that is actually a parent who's saying, there's something going wrong for my child and I want to fix it. And you don't seem to be helping. So therefore, I'm going to get louder and my elbows are going to get sharper. And now you're going to diagnose me with something that isn't diagnosable. um, like, what could we do to stop that cycle? That's a really big question. I appreciate.
That is a really big question, but it also it's quite a simple answer. And I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about this too simplistically, but what I would say is, does it hurt anybody? Does it hurt anybody in school, the Senko, the deputy head, whoever? Does it hurt them to make a referral and rule things out? Doesn't, does it? And that is what I would always say. I would say, what is it going to cost me as a Senko? I'm not the gatekeeper to services, and that's what we see a lot of. We see a lot of gatekeeping to services. My job is to, like you say, be professionally curious. And if a parent comes in and says, I've got this problem, and I said, well, we're not seeing it. We've done the observations. We're still not seeing it. And the parent gets a bit louder. I go, okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'm not the expert in this. Let's do a referral to CAMS. Let's do a referral to autism outreach team. Let's make a referral to speech and language. Let's let the experts get their eyes on your child and let's let them decide, because it's not my job to do that. I'm an educator and I'm a coordinator as a Senko. It's not my job to make a diagnosis or to judge you as a parent. And I would always say to parents, if it comes back that there's nothing there, then at least we know we've done our duty. We've answered your question, and then what we can do is we can explore the next steps together. That's
Perfect.
Is that too simple an answer, Chris?
No, because actually, I think it comes back to this sort of very simplistic thing that we've had a very strong theme of this morning, which is curiosity, not judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if people approached everything, so whether you're a family friend, whether you're a teacher, whatever, if you approach everything with curiosity and open-mindedness, then it would really, really help.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what specific things then do you think could help a parent? Like what things? both as your time as a Senko and also as I'm sure you've got other mum friends, dad friends, what things can really lift the load for a send parent?
Let's let's think about friends rather than from a professional point of view, because it's really easy for me to fall into that. So I've got a friend who is ADHD. She's got 4 children, all potentially neurodivergent, some diagnosed, a couple not, but on the pathway. And she fascinates me, Chrissa, because she'll say to me, she'll come in and I can see she's overwhelmed, and I'll say, okay, I'll have the boys, you go out and you go and do something for you. Okay, I'll have them. That the one time that we did do that, and I offered to have them overnight as well, and we did, we did a lovely evening, and she was going to go out and do a date night and all this. Well, she didn't, did she? She knocked down a wall, but that's probably because she
Oh,
said so she did some home renovation. But at the end of the day, that's her thing, and she's constantly home renovating. I'm surprised that her house is still the same floor plan, but and I think it's little things like that, isn't it? It's like, what can you do as a friend? I mean, yeah, as a professional as well, we can do all of the typical things, but as a friend, what can you do? Can you offer to give your friend some time? I suppose that works as a professional as well, offering parents, do you just want to come in for a chat and a cuppa, put the kettle on? Or do you you can offer to support them in meetings. You don't have to be a professional to support somebody in a meeting. You can go in and say, look, I'll take notes for you. It's those little things, isn't it, that that are really helpful. Time, I think.
and being proactive in offering it. I think
Yeah.
many of us shy away because we don't know what the family needs, but ask.
Hmm.
Because I think as a send parent, and I can be quite honest here in saying, and I know that you already know this, my husband and I are very isolated when it comes to networks, support networks. So we have his mum and dad, but they're about an hour away, and then that's it. We don't have any other family, and that's all been sort of stripped away from me because of my own send journey. My family didn't like um my how I was sort of being proactive in trying to get an education for my child, and the fact that she ended up in a residential school. I lost my entire family over that. So still something that's really raw. Um, However, it means that I don't have anyone. And I have got an enormous family, both here in the Midlands and also in South Wales, and all of them cut ties with me. So it's an incredibly isolating place to be. And I get comments on videos, oh, it's okay for you because you clearly have this lifestyle or whatever. And it's like, I'm on my own. So anything you see is something that me and my husband have done, and I find it really isolating. But it's something with therapy that I've come to accept. And I've got my lovely sunshine family who are fantastic, and I think that we have a lot of empathy between us, which is absolutely lovely. But one of the things I really struggle to do is reach outside of my tiny little shell here, like me and my husband and our little crew, or big crew because I've got 4 kids. But I really struggle to reach outside of that and say, I need some help. But I do have one friend that I would go to because I trust her. And we have this relationship where she will say, look, dude, and she calls me dude every time. So now she knows who I'm talking about. Look, dude, I don't know what you need. I'm not a parent myself, but she has been a Senko and she's a teacher with 25 years experience. So she's like, I don't know what you need, but whatever you do need, you just let me know and I will come and I will always do my best. And my kids respect her. She's firm but fair with them. She knows exactly how I parent them, so she would carry that out. So she will come and babysit. So whenever we go out for a staff meal, it's her usually at home. Um, and her offering to do that, but she will say to me, fancy a coffee with or without the kids? Because my little ones are absolutely fine. They can come with us, but she'll say, fancy a coffee with or without the kids. And so she has become almost like my sister that I really needed. Um, and she would do any of these things for me. But it's really hard for me to ask, and she knows that. So quite often she just offers me a coffee. And I think it's that offering, that sort of
Mm.
a quick text, fancy a cuppa,
Yeah.
what time is good for you. But I think that please accept if you're not a send parent or if and you want to help someone who is a send parent, they're not going to always give you the full picture because they're scared and they don't want to look weak and they don't want to look pathetic and they don't want to ask for something. So offer. The fact, Gabby, like oh my God, I was like, wow, when you just said, yeah, I offered to have a four boys, I was like, oh, that's just a dream because the minute you've got more than one child, people disappear.
Well, it was just a school trip for me.
Well,
But yeah,
yeah,
without risk assessment. but
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is definitely those things, and I also think, Chrissa, I don't know about you, but I definitely get a bit of mum guilt, and I don't know if that's my own sort of trauma, but I have this real like sense of like I feel really guilty if like me and my husband go out and we leave our daughter with my friend, and I know she's absolutely fine. I even get when I come to Derby, and it's but she's absolutely fine. Um, but I think as well, like, as you were saying, send children are not always easy, and you might have a lovely way with your own children, but you've also got to adapt if you're babysitting for somebody else.
Ah,
And often, don't we, as parents, as send parents, we don't you almost go, I don't want to put my send child on my friend. But actually, my friend's totally capable. It's just you get that guilt.
you do, and I think it needs unpicking. I'm much better with the guilt now. I've had like 5 years of intensive
Yeah.
therapy, and I've handed the guilt back to where it came from because it sounds a bit hippie, but I know that you'll join me in this
I'll
hippiness.
hug the tree with
I
you.
love a bit of but essentially it's in our heads because it got put there by someone else. Now, it's not somebody saying that we should feel guilty, it's someone else saying they feel guilty quite often, usually a maternal contact in our lives, and they have expressed, I feel guilty, I am less than, I chose this life as a mother, therefore I should put up with it. It's all about balance. I've got a real issue with people who say things like, oh, you're tired because you're a parent. Well, you chose to have them. What? I didn't say I want my children. I'm saying that I'm tired. That's all. We're allowed to experience all the feels, all the experiences, regardless of what we've chosen. It's okay. We're human. Just because I don't know, I'm looking at my car on the drive. Just because I buy the car that I want to buy doesn't mean my life is fixed. It means I
Mhm.
don't have a payment for a car going out to my month, so I can still out to my bank every month. So I now can whinge that, oh God, I'm paying for that car. I still want the car. I enjoy driving the car, getting the dopamine fix from driving the car, but I still a bit of a drag when I see it go out to my bank every month. That's all. And it's all about balance. Um, but yeah, it's a maternal, well, not just maternal, but I think these things that are put in our heads to create the guilt that seem to be, sorry, men, very balanced, sort of sided towards women. We don't ever hear dad guilt. Sorry, dad. Sorry if you're watching, but it does tend to be more mums that watch us. Um, but it does seem to be more mum guilt and dad guilt.
Mm.
Where does it come from? It's an interesting one to unpick. And if anybody wants to unpick it and they have a therapist, please do, because I think it really does help. Because I feel less mum guilt now than I've ever felt before. And I've got really strong boundaries with my kids as well. Like sometimes, particularly as an ADHDer, I can get to the end of a day and go, wow, I've just overexerted myself in every way today. And by 7 o'clock, I am done in. Now, none of my children have physical disabilities that need particular attention or anything at that time of night. So that is something that I'm very sort of, well, it's easier for me at that time of life. So I can sometimes say to my kids, okay, Mum is done mumming. It's 7 o'clock. We've all had food. You've been serviced for the day by me. I am now going to switch that service to me. I need to service me so I can service you again tomorrow. And because I've had that instilled in the family for many, many, many years, my kids understand it. They respect it to a certain level. Usually that gives them the green light to start acting like absolute a-hole. But anyway, essentially what we're saying is we need someone though to listen, to
Yeah.
be our ally, to be empathetic, to be open-minded, regardless of whether they're a professional, regardless of whether they're a fellow send parent, another parent. Um, it's about just listening and sometimes saying things like, I don't have the answers, but I'm here for you. Because that really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's a really hard thing to say because I think we all want to go in and fix it, don't we?
We do. We really, really do. But we don't have to fix it. Now, I'm going to come to the questions. Let's have a quick look on the old Facebook. I've answered all the YouTube ones. So let's have a quick look. So Gemma says it's sadly incredibly isolating to navigate a system, especially in terms of sensory processing, as I feel like it's just not generally understood. Yeah, definitely sensory processing. You can't see it. Um, and people don't understand sensory integration, nor should they. I mean, it's not a standard thing that we all learn. But sensory integration, sensory processing is a really tricky one because people think that it's all about, oh God, I'm just gonna call it out, okay? So when you think of sensory, and then you get a school who says, we've done a sensory room. It's always black, it's always got neon lights in it, it's always got bloody fidget toys. And it's like, as an ADHDer, I hate being in the dark with like bright lights. I hate that. I have to be in a bright room, usually, because I like to see what's going on, but it doesn't hurt my eyes. But then I also like a lot of twinkly lights. So, but it's all bespoke to the individuals. So it's really frustrating because I think when people think sensory, they're like, yeah, bubble tube. That
Yeah,
I'd fall asleep.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, she's often as SEN parents, we probably have some undiagnosed sensory processing difficulties ourselves. That I know when I've had a really tough day, I will reach for that jar of kimchi or jar of pickled chilies and scoff there a lot. And it's like, and I didn't realize that was actually a sensory processing thing until somebody told me that it was. And some of us reach for the glass of wine, or some of us put a live music up, whatever it is, but it's all those sensory experiences are felt by us as well, aren't they?
Oh my God, so much so. And I think until you start the send journey, parents don't realize these things. They really don't. Natasha says, I feel this. I see how many people treat my obviously send son compared to my other children who have send but are not so obvious.
Well,
There is
that's
a difference.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
isn't it? It's one of those hidden
yeah,
difficulties.
it is. And I'm going to add another dimension to
Mm,
this because families who are not white and who are not British will also have a very different experience.
mm,
And I've spoken at length about one of my children. One of my children is mixed race, and she is visibly mixed race. You know, sometimes mixed race you can't visibly see it, but she is. She looks different to me, and her experience, her initial consultant appointment, so pediatrician appointment, I said she just seems so sad, and she has this sort of like basically a resting bitch face that she's not aware of, and it's getting her into trouble, and she gets really sad about this. And the doctor, an old female white doctor, said, well, she's mixed race, that's how they all look.
oh my
And I
goodness.
was flabbergasted. I didn't have words. My daughter was 10 at the time. And I remember instantly feeling, this doesn't feel right. That is not right at all. That's racist. I have to protect my daughter. I can't kick off right now, but can I kick off? All these things were going in my head. I was flabbergasted. So I went mute. We ended the consultation. We left. I went to the toilet. I burst into tears. My daughter was there and she said, "That wasn't very kind, was it?" And I said, "Oh, sweetheart, I didn't protect you. I don't have the skills as a white woman. I am not experienced in this, and I really should have done my research beforehand. I had immense guilt." So, talk about mum guilt, having the additional guilt then of going, I am raising a child who's going to experience this world differently to me because I have white privilege. I have an advantage because I'm white. I don't have to think about these things when I go into these spaces, but my daughter will. And why did I not think about that? And I get angry to this day. I could cry. But that is a very different experience to my white children who walk into a room and don't have to worry about that. That's not a comment that they have received, you know? So they get a very more straightforward diagnostic process. It took another 3 years for my daughter to be diagnosed. So that is something I've opened up quite a lot about this experience today. So I might just spend the day crying now. Samantha says, I feel you on this. We're on our own too, just me and my husband and children, no friends or family to help us. We need to recognize that that exists. And if you see that mother or father at the gate, the school gate, and they look kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to talk to anyone. It's not that they don't want to. They're probably quite scared to talk to other people because they don't get it.
Mhm.
And I think, offer to have a coffee with them.
School playgrounds are really difficult places. It's just like, oh, as a teacher, I didn't like them. And then as a parent, I like them even less. And it's really hard. So yeah, just that reaching out. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Don't overthink it. Just ask them, you
Yeah.
know? And the first one, they might kind of go, What? No, nobody's ever asked me to go for a drink before. What are you talking about? But actually, just make a little chit chat with them and let them know that you can be their ally at the school gate at the very least, you know? No, I've got a real thing about school playgrounds. I'm not really into it. I also find, sadly, because of what I do for a living, that I just get approached by people wanting advice all the time. So when COVID came and I could wear a mask and I put like a baseball cap, I was like Victoria Beckham
In disguise.
in disguise,
Love
and
it.
also probably about 4 times the size. But we'll ignore that. Um, let's have a quick look. I'm very aware of time. We're over. I was wondering if we could fill it, but of course we were going to fill it. Um, I can't actually see that many comments now because of the way that I'm watching this. Um, oh yeah, okay. So going back to the sensory thing, Vicky says, whack some ear defenders on, bright lights, and a load of fidgets. That is typically what we think of. That's the go-to for most places. Mine can't cope with the lights. One can't tolerate clothing on the bottom half. Allow her to wear joggers. Uh, yeah, that's another thing you see that those school uniform. It's great for the majority, but there are some kids who really struggle with school uniform. It's not going to stop them from learning. In fact, it's going to enable their learning if you just let them wear what they're. And it's not about letting kids come to school in whatever they want, and so that you've got that sort of like um brand war between
Mm.
kids, oh, he's wearing Adidas and my child can't afford to wear Adidas, we're in Asda. Well, I'm not on about that. If you say, look, on the bottom half it's got to be grey, doesn't matter
Mm.
what it is, it's got to be grey. Top half got to be white. Just let people do their thing. Our local school, senior school, have been really brilliant because for decades, in fact since it's opened, everybody's had to wear blazers. We've had this new head teacher in about 4 years ago, and he put a consultation out and said, do you want the blazers? Because in the winter they get in the way of the coats, and in the summer you're constantly waiting for an update from school as to whether you're allowed to take them off. He's like, it's ridiculous. So what do you think? And so some parents said they liked the blazers, some parents said they didn't like the blazers, and he went, all right, well, if you want one, wear it. If you don't worry about it. Just put a logo jumper on. We're
Oh,
like,
that's amazing. That's incredible.
I'm actually recording a podcast with him in September because he doesn't have an attendance policy.
No,
Uh,
I love that.
so we can't wait to talk about this because he says that children will come to school if the school is right for them and if they're okay. And if they're not okay, let's look at it. Let's work on it together. And I can't wait. So stay tuned because we're filming that podcast in September. Um, Oh, and quite interestingly here, somebody said that she's a nurse. Danielle said she's a nurse, and she said sees many connections with neurodivergence and addiction. ADHD and addiction almost work hand in hand. As somebody who has ADHD myself, I've done presentations on this. I'm going to be at the Autism and ADHD show in all three locations, and I will be talking about touching on addiction and my experience. But basically, in my 20s, I probably would have been diagnosed as an addict. Am I an addict? Of seeking dopamine, yes, but not of substances. I've never been on drugs, by the way. This is all about alcohol, but food, alcohol, and dopamining. And understanding how you can sort of help yourself there is huge, but there is a massive connection. And I know that people have seen a lot of my content where I've spoken about and to Davinia Taylor on Instagram. But Davinia's got ADHD and she's an alcoholic. She's been sober for a long, long time, but she's committed her entire life to understanding what the links are and how we can help ourselves. So do check her out as well. So I think, Gabby, I mean, we could literally sit all day. I'm 8 minutes over. I'm going to be told off for this. So I think we'll bring everything to a close now. But for those watching, please do look at the comments because there's been some really interesting things raised on how people can help each other, how schools can be really, really helpful as well. And I think we've covered all bases, and I hope people have found it validating. I know I found it very validating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've touched on some things that have really made me think. I'm going to go away and completely think about this all day now.
Yeah, it'll stay on my mind all day.
Yeah, yeah.
I just sit crying about how much I've overshared. But just to remind everyone, tonight we do have a webinar on masking and fawning with Kelly Jarvis. And then on Thursday, we've got a webinar on dyslexia. And this is going to be great whether you're a parent or a teacher, because we're seeing so much, aren't we, in schools where they're saying we don't diagnose it anymore, we don't screen for it anymore. We're going to be busting those myths on Thursday evening. And I know quite a lot of you have been asking about PDA because I spoke about PDA. We have an intensive all-day workshop in our Derby hub, and there's hotels locally if you want a little break. It's like a spa break when you book into a Premier Inn as a parent, isn't it? But we've got that on the 20th of June. So actually, that's not far away. Um, that's a really lovely day of safety, by the way, because we end up finding that everybody's in tears at a certain point and everybody comes together and just connects and supports one another. But we've got Libby Hill, Phil Christie, we've got Judy Eaton, we've got the PDA Society, and then we've got two very, very special guests who have the lived experience of PDA, and they're going to be talking to us as well. So a day app. Oh, and Kelly Jarvis is going to be there. And of course, a lot of children at Kelly Jarvis's old school had PDA. So it's going to be absolutely information packed. So if you want to learn more about PDA, whether you're a professional or a parent, come along to that. Just comment that you want the link for the PDA and workshop, and we'll give that to you. Thank you so much, Gabby.
All right, thank you.
It's been a dream, as always.
Has it never long enough?
No, I know we could just do it all day, couldn't we? We'd have to have a fair amount to drink. I mean, obviously, I mean good stuff like my green potion, my
Good
green
stuff.
potion.
Yeah.
Just going to call this my Elphaba drink. That's what I'm going to call it.
I've
Yeah.
just discovered kombucha. Is it kombucha?
Yeah.
I've just
No.
discovered that. Yeah,
Have a look at the Will Powders kombucha. It's really,
that's what I'm looking at. It's like kimchi in a drink. It's like a dream.
yeah. Kombucha and kefir water is
Yeah.
another one. You can make that at home as well. Kefir water, and I've got my nootropics in there to give me to activate my brain. So that is a stimulant for anybody who's got ADHD. This is just like Ritalin that's natural. It's fantastic. It's a stimulant, keeps you focused and gives you a bit of energy as well. And I've also discovered apple cider vinegar drink, ACV drink. They're really good.
Yeah.
And they're now selling nootropics in supermarkets as well. So I've just found one called the G Spot. It's in. It's fabulous, but it gives you energy and keeps you focused. I'm all about it, but it's
Watch out, Mr. Sunshine. Watch out.
I know, I know.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my God.
I can't wait to see you and see your G spot.
Do a bingo card of what we can fit on a Facebook Live. We have covered it all here. I'm sorry to anybody who's continuing to watch. You're just seeing some chaos now. This is what we're like when well, I'm not going to say what we're really like. Not you anyway, Gabs, because you look sensible now, but we know
I am totally. I'm on my best behaviour.
and the cameras aren't out.
Yeah,
We'll leave it there before
absolutely.
neurodivergent brains disclose anything else. Um, but I will see you, I'm sure, at some point. But thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Oh, thank you.